You're sitting next to someone, a friend, a partner, a person you once felt so close to, words flowed without effort. But now, nothing. No argument, no eye contact, just silence. And yet, the room is louder than ever. It's a familiar ache, the kind of quiet that tightens your chest, that fills the air with everything unspoken, and everything too heavy to say. You start to wonder, are they angry? Are they hurt? Did I do something wrong? Should I speak? Or wait for them to? What does this silence even mean? We tend to think of silence as the absence of sound. But between two people, silence can become a language of its own. A language built not from words, but from distance, from glances avoided, from breaths held too long, from hands that used to reach but no longer do. And what's most unsettling is that this kind of silence doesn't echo outward, it echoes inward. It stirs up your own doubts, memories, expectations. It forces you to confront not just the other person, but yourself. So why is it that some silences feel safe, while others feel unbearable? Why can silence with one person feel like peace, and with another feel like punishment? That's the question we're going to explore. Because maybe the loudest moments in any relationship aren't the ones where we raise our voices, but the ones where we don't say anything at all. Silence is never truly silent. We often describe silence as the absence of something. No talking, no shouting, no sound. But in human connection, silence is rarely empty. It is full of signals, meanings, emotions. Because even when we don't speak, we are still communicating. A turned shoulder, a delayed response, a deep sigh that fills the room, an averted gaze, or one that lingers too long. To the human brain, these moments are not neutral. They are data, and our brains, especially the emotional parts, are constantly scanning for meaning. Neuroscientists call it social decoding. Our brain's built-in radar for reading the intentions, emotions, and state of others. Even in silence, this system is working overtime. When someone we care about goes quiet, our brain immediately starts asking questions. Is something wrong? Are they withdrawing? Am I being rejected? And because the silence offers no clear answers, our minds start to fill in the gaps. We project, we assume, we relive past hurts. This is why some silences feel louder than words, because they leave room for our own stories to echo. And sometimes, those stories aren't kind. Think of the last time you sat in silence with someone and felt something shift. The stillness wasn't peaceful. It was electric, heavy, charged. That's because silence is never just the absence of something. It's the presence of what's been held back. A moment where love could have been offered but wasn't. Where forgiveness lingered but never found words. Where a question hung in the air and both people let it fall. But silence isn't always negative. There's the kind of silence that exists between two people who are safe with each other, who don't need to fill space, who can sit in a car, walk down a street, lie in bed, and say nothing at all, because their presence is enough. That silence is soft. It soothes the nervous system. It feels like home. So what makes the difference? Context, emotion, intention. Not all silence is the same, and learning to listen to what's underneath it may be one of the most powerful relational skills we can develop. What happens in the brain during tense silence? Imagine sitting beside someone you care about. The room is quiet, but something in that quiet feels sharp. You try to focus on your breathing, but your thoughts are racing. You start noticing things you wouldn't otherwise, how they crossed their arms, how they haven't looked at you in minutes, how the air between you feels thick, like something unspoken is pressing down. Your heart beats a little faster, your shoulders tense. You feel restless or overly alert. This is not just emotion, it's biology. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system. Inside your brain, there's a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. It plays a key role in detecting emotional threats, especially when something feels uncertain or unresolved. When you sense that someone important to you is emotionally withdrawn, your amygdala lights up. It's scanning for danger, not physical, but relational. Because in human evolution, social connection has always meant survival. To be excluded, ignored, or misunderstood wasn't just painful, it could be fatal. So even today, the brain treats emotional silence as a kind of threat. And when the amygdala is activated, your body responds. The body's silent stress response. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing becomes shallow. Stress hormones like cortisol begin to rise. Muscles tighten, especially in the neck, jaw, and shoulders. This is your nervous system moving into a state of hypervigilance. It's getting ready to react, to defend, withdraw, or try to fix. But here's the paradox. In tense silence, there's nothing to react to. No words, no action, just ambiguity. And the brain hates ambiguity. It would rather face anger or even conflict, something clear, than sit in uncertainty. Because uncertainty is where the mind starts spinning. Mind reading and misreading. In tense silence, we become expert mind readers. Or at least we think we are. We assume they must be disappointed in me. They're probably regretting what they said. They don't care anymore. But here's what's fascinating. Studies show we're often wrong. Our brains are wired to fill in gaps with negativity bias, an evolutionary tendency to assume the worst so we can prepare for it. In silence, that bias goes unchecked. And before we even realize it, we're reacting not to the other person, but to the story we've told ourselves about their silence. When silence triggers old wounds. Sometimes the volume of silence is turned up not just by the present moment, but by echoes from the past. If you grew up in a home where silence meant punishment, rejection, or withdrawal, then a quiet partner might not feel peaceful. They might feel threatening. Your body remembers, and it reacts accordingly. Even if the other person means no harm, your nervous system may interpret their stillness as abandonment, as something to fear. This is not weakness, it's conditioning, and it takes awareness to untangle. The need for co-regulation. When two people are emotionally connected, they help each other stay regulated, a process called co-regulation. This is why the presence of a loved one can calm a crying baby, why a reassuring hand can slow your breath, why shared laughter brings relief. But in tense silence, that co-regulation breaks down. The feedback loop becomes unclear, and the body responds with stress, which is why unresolved silence, especially in close relationships, can feel so exhausting. It's not just the quiet. It's the emotional uncertainty inside that quiet. So, if you've ever wondered why a single unspoken moment could leave you drained for hours, now you know. It's not just in your head. It's in your body. It's in your wiring. And the more you understand it, the more gently you can begin to respond to it. The many types of silence. And how to respond. Not all silence carries the same weight. Sometimes it wounds, sometimes it heals, sometimes it simply holds space. To respond wisely, we first need to understand, which kind of silence are we sitting in? 1. Silence of peace. This is the kind of silence that exists between people who feel safe with each other. There's no pressure to perform, no need to fill the air. It's the quiet between two old friends driving at dusk. The silence of a couple who can read each other's breathing. The stillness of trust. This silence is soft. It calms the nervous system. No words, just presence. No noise, but deep connection. How to respond. Breathe it in. Let it be. Don't force noise where peace already lives. 2. Silence of avoidance. This is the silence that follows tension, when something needs to be said, but both people turn away from it. It's quiet, but sharp. A space where resentment lingers, where questions go unasked and fears grow in the shadows. Left too long, this silence can harden into distance. How to respond? With courage. Gently name the silence. Ask, is there something we're not saying? Even a small gesture can break the cycle of withdrawal. 3. Silence of emotional overwhelm. Sometimes people go quiet not because they don't care, but because they care too much. They're flooded, speechless, afraid that if they speak, it'll come out wrong or come out in tears. This silence is fragile, not cold, but vulnerable. How to respond? With tenderness. Offer space without pressure. Say, it's okay. Take your time. Let presence do what words can't. 4. Silence of control or punishment. This is the silence that cuts, that withholds connection to create discomfort. It's not just absence, it's intentional withdrawal. A way of saying, I won't talk to you until you hurt like I do. This kind of silence creates fear, confusion, power imbalance, and over time, it erodes trust. How to respond? With boundaries. Recognize the difference between space and manipulation. If silence is being used as a weapon, name it, or step away from it. 5. Silence of reflection. This silence holds growth. It happens in therapy rooms, after arguments, in moments of insight. It's the pause between reaction and response, between hurt and healing. How to respond? With patience. Let it unfold. Let it teach. Sometimes silence is not the absence of connection, but the space where connection prepares to return. Learning to recognize these types of silence isn't just about understanding others. It's about learning to stay present with what's hard to say, and learning to hear what's never spoken aloud. Listening for what was never said. Not every story is told in words. Some are whispered through distance, some written in pauses, some passed between glances, or the absence of them. And sometimes the most honest thing in a room is the silence no one dares to break. But here's the quiet truth. Silence is not the enemy. It's an invitation to listen beyond noise, to pay attention, not just to what was said, but to what was felt. Because between two people, silence is never neutral. It carries weight. It can cradle. It can wound. It can stretch across a room like a bridge. And in that silence, we're faced with a choice. Do we turn away, letting silence become distance? Or do we turn toward letting silence become understanding? Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to stay in the discomfort, to stay curious, to stay soft, even when everything in you wants to protect. Because beneath the silence, there's almost always a voice waiting to be heard. Not just theirs, but yours too. So next time you sit in silence with someone, ask gently, of yourself or of them, what is this silence trying to say? And if the answer doesn't come in words, that's okay. Let your presence be the language. Let your stillness say, I'm here. I care. Even in this. Thank you for being part of this quiet reflection. May you carry this with you into the spaces where words run out. And may you always remember, sometimes the loudest way to love is simply to listen.